To discuss the implications of oil speculation, we are joined from Washington by Michael Greenberger, a former director at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and he now teaches law at the University of Maryland. Good to have you with us, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to.
So, how much do you think speculation plays in these gyrations in the price of crude?
Well, I think the gyrations are completely supported by speculative betting by wealthy institutions, banks, hedge funds, private equity firms, and unfortunately pension funds as well in the crude oil futures market. It is not the complete cause of the high price of oil, but conservative estimates have said, in fact, using Goldman Sachs numbers, that about $30 per barrel of crude can be attributed to nothing more than betting instruments that send a false demand signal to the market. So
the price would otherwise be $75 a barrel? Is that what you're saying?
The price would otherwise be $75. In fact, the CEO of ExxonMobil in April 2011, in testimony to the Senate Finance Committee, when oil was then at 110, said that market fundamentals suggested that oil should be between $60 and $70. And there are a host of academic experts, market observers, heads of government, including the Saudi king, who support those general numbers.
And so you are supportive of what President Obama would like to do?
I'm completely supportive of what President Obama wants to do. It's not been heavily focused on. The president is not a Johnny-come-lately to this issue. In his campaign, he came out when oil was at 147, a world record high, against speculative manipulation of the markets. He convened a interagency criminal task force in April 2011 when it was at 10. After he made that announcement, just the sheer announcement drove the price down to 75 within 6 months. But that task force has unfortunately not evidenced a seriousness. The president reconvened it on March 8, 2012, and I think his Rose Garden speech last week was his message more than anything else to his attorney general and the chief regulators to get a move on that criminal investigation.
So, you know, somewhere in there you used the word manipulation as well. What is the difference between speculation and manipulation?
That's an excellent question. There are two different theories of support for the present crude oil price bubble. One is that when the hedging markets used by oil producers and oil consumers are overwhelmed by speculative activity, people who only care about price direction, the markets become unmoored from price-demand fundamentals. A good, healthy market is 70% commercial, 30% speculative. Those markets are now 80% speculative, 20% commercial. They're completely unmoored from price-demand fundamentals. There has been an attempt to limit that speculative activity, recognizing that we're not looking at intent or motive, but just that the sheer presence of a market dominated by price speculators who are betting the price will go up unmoors the markets. Manipulation is a criminal intent violation. And what the president is saying, and he compared this to the Enron situation in 99 and 2000, when Enron manipulated the natural gas market to increase the price of electricity, that there are actually people in that market, speculators, who are working together to drive the price up. He's right about that, and I think, frankly, if our Justice Department would simply give the appearance of doing a serious investigation in that area, it would drive speculators out and you would see the price fall. On his initial announcement in April of 2011, he drove the price down from 110 to 75, but it became clear that the Justice Department was not serious about the investigation. I think the president's Rose Garden speech with the Attorney General at his side was a subtle signal for them to get moving.
So how do you effectively regulate this market or curb speculation or curb manipulation without distorting the market further, inhibiting liquidity, creating unintended consequences, all of those kinds of things?
Well, let me say, as I said, as a former regulator, a smooth functioning market for commercial hedgers has 30% speculative involvement. What the federal statutes, our federal statutes, are driven towards is excessive speculation. And when you have a market that's not 30% speculative, but 80% speculative, it is almost entirely liquidity and no commercial hedging, which is a problem in itself. People are just running the risk by charging higher prices and not insuring themselves through a futures market. They're driven out of that market by the overwhelming presence of speculators. So if we move from 80% to 30% speculation, we'd have more than enough liquidity, and we'd in fact get commercial hedgers back in the market that would be helpful to the price as well. The second vehicle is to investigate for manipulation. That is a criminal intent to conspire to drive prices up. As was true in the Enron situation, I think that's a prime vehicle. Finally, within the next few days, bills introduced in our Congress that ban a $500 billion industry where people merely come in, pension funds, hedge funds, equity firms, mutual funds, and bet with big banks that the price will go up. They don't buy anything, they just place a bet. And the banks offset their exposure to those bets by overwhelming the futures market with long buys on crude oil. The paper crude oil in the futures market is 10 times the world's supply. But those banks never have to deliver or take delivery because they let a contract expire and then they buy a new contract. That's called the Goldman roll. So there is out there obligations for 10 times the amount of oil we have, but the way they cleverly manipulate the market, they never have to deliver on the oil that is in excess of the world's supply.
All right, sir, we have to leave it there. Many thanks for making time for us today, Michael.
Happy to do so.
Thank you. That is Michael Greenberger. He's with the University of Maryland, and he's former director of the Division of Trading and Markets at the Commodity Futures and Trading Commission. Coming up next, the other side.